The Nintendo Switch 2 is officially revealed and we got a sneak peek at the first new game for the console as well. There's also a very interesting report from Jason Schreier concerning 2 cancelled Sony games, one of which really surprised me, and some new insights into Ubisoft's plans for the future. And as you might have seen, Jordan is currently in Canada playing Assassin's Creed Shadows, totally not jealous by the way, so Dennis, that's me, will be taking over the video for this Sunday. But there's of course a ton of gaming news to go over, so let's get right into it. And we're starting with an update on the upcoming Xbox Developer Direct, which we also discussed in the previous Sunday video. The confirmed titles, South of Midnight, Clair Obscur and Doom the Dark Ages, all look really promising, but it's of course that secret 4th game that everyone's most curious about. And while Jordan speculated earlier that this would likely be Double Fine's new project, new information actually suggests something very different. Reliable journalist Jess Gordon wrote an article about the year ahead for Xbox, in which he said the following about the unrevealed game. I won't spoil what it is, but our sources indicate that it is a new entry in a legendary Japanese IP which has decades of history and should make a lot of fans happy. My mind immediately went to Final Fantasy, although I definitely don't think the announcement is FF related. The most likely announcement there would be the FF7 remake coming to Xbox, but we already know from the announcement of the showcase that this secret 4th game is a brand new title. Of course, if you have any ideas on what it could be, let me know in the comments. And while I dismissed Jordan's speculation about a Double Fine announcement earlier, Gordon also teased on his socials that there might be more than one surprise, so who knows, maybe we will see that studio too. We did also get a proper game reveal this week, as the Blood of the Dawnwalker received its reveal trailer. In case you didn't know, this game is the first project by Rebel Wolves, a new studio founded by ex-CDPR staff. The game's reveal trailer shows us the origin of protagonist Cohen, who encounters a pack of vampires that end up taking rule of the valley he lived in. Cohen becomes part vampire himself, but is hell-bent on taking down the other bloodsuckers in order to save his family. The setting sounds interesting, and the snippet of actual gameplay they showed also looks really good. I'm definitely getting some Witcher vibes here, which is obviously a good thing. But the most interesting parts were the gameplay systems the developers talked about during the reveal livestream. Day and night will change up gameplay massively, as Cohen is just a regular man by day, having to rely on a sword for protection and being a lot more fragile. At night, he can use vampiric powers to protect himself and attack enemies, but the monsters you fight in the dark are also a lot more powerful. You also have to keep your blood hunger in check by regularly feeding yourself with blood, or else you run the risk of accidentally giving into your hunger during a conversation, which can result in you eating an important quest NPC. And speaking of quests, Rebel Wolves want to create a very open-ended questing system with many paths and solutions to both main and side quests. There's also some sort of ticking clock involved, as you only have a limited number of days to save your family, although details on how this is going to work exactly are still a bit vague. Anyway, the idea of an impending deadline can be really cool, especially if it also involves tough narrative choices, so definitely a game to look forward to. A proper gameplay reveal is coming in the summer of 2025. But the biggest reveal of the week was of course the reveal of a new console, namely the Nintendo Switch 2. If you were not aware of the leaks, I imagine this announcement caught you by surprise, as it feels like out of nowhere Nintendo decided to reveal the look of their new console, while also confirming it will still be releasing this year. The Switch 2 will be a bit larger than the first Switch, sporting a more flexible backstand that allows you to change the angle of the portable screen. The new Joy-Cons look more sleek thanks to their mostly black design, and interestingly they seem to have a new feature where you're able to flip the controller on its side and use it like a computer mouse. The connector is also different, but I'm mostly just hoping they don't suffer from the stick drift issues the regular Joy-Cons tend to have. Next to the design, we're also left with a short snippet of gameplay, and while it's not clarified, this is actually our first glimpse at the next Mario Kart. The track appears to be a new one, and some of the characters like Donkey Kong have an updated design that is clearly different from the most recent entry. But the most interesting thing, as noted by VGC, is that at one point there appear to be 15 racers on screen. In fact, the starting grid shows spots for 24 carts, which implies that this new entry will be doubling the amount of players when compared to the rest of the series. Another important thing we learned is that both digital and physical Nintendo Switch games will be backwards compatible, with some exceptions that will be announced at a later date. So that likely means you can play Tears of the Kingdom on the Switch 2, hopefully with a performance or graphics boost like we also saw with PS4 games on PS5 for example. While nothing has been said about that yet, we'll be sure to learn more about the Switch 2 and upcoming games for the console on the dedicated Nintendo Direct on April 2nd. So great news for Nintendo fans, but unfortunately we have some less than stellar news coming from Sony. In a new report from Jason Schreier, who is a very credible source when it comes to these things, he states that 2 unannounced live service games have been cancelled. These games were in development at 2 pretty high profile Sony owned studios, those being Bend Studio and Bluepoint Games. And while they were unannounced, we do have some interesting info on both of these titles. While the game was never officially revealed, Bend did tease some things about their next project in a 2022 blog post, saying that we are currently working on a new IP that includes multiplayer and builds upon the open world systems of Days Gone. With later job listings revealing this project would also include live service elements, it's pretty clear that this is the project that got canned. But Bluepoint's cancelled project came as much more of a surprise, as Jason confirmed on Blue Sky that they were working on a live service God of War game. I think many of us were under the impression that they were working on an original IP, as they said something along those lines after Sony officially acquired the studio. However, going back to that comment now, which reads "we're working on original content right now," it is clear what they meant. They were making new and original content, but Sony obviously did not want to reveal that content was part of an existing IP, as people would have immediately begun speculating and potentially even putting the pieces together. But unfortunately, that title will never see the light of day, and honestly that kind of stings. It's no secret I love God of War and I really like Bluepoint too, so I think there was a lot of potential in them making original content in one of my favorite gaming universes. Now it just serves as another failed experiment in Sony's push towards live service. And I know that Concord is obviously the biggest example, but I'm more worried about the fact that we've had live service games based on Spider-Man, The Last of Us and now God of War, and they've all been cancelled. These are frankly massive franchises that you could have done a lot of other things with in the meantime, but now you're left with nothing to show for it. And on the other hand, Bend was unable to continue and develop their own IP in Days Gone in favor of a multiplayer-driven live service game, which has now been cancelled. This strategy is currently hurting both existing Sony franchises and is preventing potential new worlds and characters from developing to the level of a Kratos or Nathan Drake, so it's up to Sony to either turn the ship around or abandon this live service plan entirely. We do know both Bend and Bluepoint are being consulted on what their next projects should be, so at least the studios remain open. But yeah, some pretty bad news, and there's of course way more to talk about, so if you enjoyed the video so far, be sure to leave a like and subscribe, as we do one of these weekly news roundups every Sunday. And we of course have to talk about Ubisoft again, as we received another update on the company's future as well as their planned game releases for this year and the next. It's of course no secret the company is currently not doing well, with rumors of Tencent wanting to buy the company out and make it go private. Well, it seems like that option is currently off the table, as Bloomberg now reports that Tencent and Ubisoft are considering a new plan. A plan that consists of starting a new business venture and moving assets that now belong to Ubi to this new company. So in simpler terms, both parties are considering making a new publishing studio or something of that vein, and then plan to move IPs like Rayman or Splinter Cell that currently belong to Ubisoft to this new company. The hope is that this move raises stock prices for Ubisoft itself, as well as give Tencent more control over the franchises that would fall under this new studio in order to boost their game business outside of China. No final decision has been made yet, and while it will be a drastic change for Ubi, it definitely sounds like a better option than earlier rumors were describing. Tom Henderson from Insider Gaming did an extensive follow-up report, we'll link to it in the video description, where he also mentioned many of the titles Ubisoft is planning to release in between now and 2026. There are a lot of already revealed titles on this list, including the Splinter Cell and Sands of Time remakes, Assassin's Creed Hexe, The Division 3 and Beyond Good and Evil 2, but we also learned some interesting things about unannounced upcoming projects like the Assassin's Creed Black Flag remake. Insider Gaming reported last year that the initial delay of AC Shadows might have impacted that game, as it is now being planned to release earlier, potentially even still this year. We of course don't know if that plan has changed now that Shadows has been delayed again, but we did learn some additional info. For one, the game should be running on the Anvil engine, and it will also feature new systems and combat, so it's going to be more than just a visual upgrade. Insider Gaming also reports another AC remake is in the works, codenamed Stardust, as well as another flagship flagship RPG title that we don't know about. Jordan inquired if this project was referencing codename Nebula, which is in the works at Ubisoft Sofia, which would reportedly feature settings based in India, the Aztec Empire, and the Mediterranean. But apparently this is either a different project entirely or it's been renamed, which just goes to show you how many AC games are currently in development. Far Cry 7, rumored to heavily change up the formula of the franchise, should also still release before 2026, and the same is true for Ghost Recon Over and the Rayman remake. So that's potentially a really good lineup of games for this year and the next, with the only obvious problem being that significant changes within Ubisoft might mean this pipeline of games shifts too. As mentioned in the article, there are also some less than promising projects in the work, like the multiplayer and extraction based Far Cry game codenamed Maverick, that just seem like a waste of time and money in these dire looking times for Ubisoft, especially after how the whole X-Defiant situation went down. Again, a lot will be hanging on shadow, so let's hope that delay to March 20th was worth it. So yeah, some big gaming news this week, even though the year is just getting started, and next week is looking very exciting as well, as on Thursday, January 23rd, previews for Assassin's Creed Shadows will go live, so you can expect a ton of content on that game right here on the channel. And while that will be the main focus, you can of course expect another one of these Sunday news roundup videos at the end of next week. So subscribe to make sure you don't miss it, leave a like if you enjoyed this one, and if you want, you can watch our previous video on some very interesting leaks for AC Shadows by clicking on the screen. I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.